Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Philip. This is Rangers Respite, and today's Friday, and it's not a Friday. Today, we're looking at a Highland single malt Scotch. In fact, we're looking at Dalwhinnie Winter's Frost, which brings up an interesting sort of side topic to whiskey that we might talk about a little bit. But before we get into that, just really quick, if you like the show, you'd like to support it, you'd like to see more of these, I'm selling these on Etsy. They're $25 a piece. They are ballpoint twist pens turned from a piece of French oak barrel stave. That barrel held cognac for 45 years before being used to finish a peated American single malt whiskey in the Pacific Northwest. If you know, you know. Without further ado, let's talk about Dalwhinnie Winter's Frost. This is, let me double check, bottled at 43% alcohol by volume. You can't really get it anymore, but I had a retail price of $39.99 was the Tully. This one was $43.99, I believe. Ended up being about $45 after tax, which genuinely not a bad price for it. It is a non-age statement Highland single malt Scotch whiskey. And I believe Dalwhinnie is the highest altitude Scotch distillery. I could be wrong. Pardon me for just a second. I apologize for that. Now, on the nose, you've got heather, honey, a little bit of like drying vegetation, some nice malty character, very approachable, light. On the palate, there's a note that I associate with cognac finished whiskeys, sort of a lightly bittersweet grape skin note, more of that like heather floral note, more of that light honey, and that sort of cereal malty note that just sort of underpins the whole dram. It is a little bit thin on the mouthfeel, like, and obviously 43%, it drinks like water. There's a slight mustiness to it, like old books. Now let's actually talk about, sort of what I teased earlier, and that's relating to the fact that this is, as you may well know, a Game of Thrones tie-in product. This one relating to House Stark. Sort of an interesting choice for it. Just because, I would have picked a more northerly distillery for this. Just my thoughts, but Diageo may not have a distillery, or may not have had at that time a distillery in their portfolio that was a far north distillery. And it falls into the interesting category of a popular media tie-in product of limited audience. So you're already starting with, you're looking at a tie-in product for a piece of media that already narrows the scope of who's going to be looking at it. Although when this was released, Game of Thrones was a massive popular media phenomena. Everybody was talking about Game of Thrones. I was watching at the time, but not sort of religiously, as it were. Just sort of casually watching. And when these were announced and released, there was, of course, a delay in them getting to Virginia, which, of course, meant that there was all that hype building up in Virginia to get these products. And at the end of the day, I was only able to get this one. My options when I picked this one up at the store, at all the local stores, was the Dalwhinnie Winter's Frost, the Stark, or the Singleton of Glendullan, which was the Tully. And that one was actually a very good, you know, synergistic collaboration because Singleton of Glendullan, of course, is known for having the fish, and Tully's in Game of Thrones, the Tullys have a fish as their heraldic symbol. And these two are on the lower end of the price range. Granted, probably the most expensive at the time was the Lannister, because that was before the release of the Seven Kingdoms Mortlock, which was $160. And at the time, you could find places that would sell you the full set. All the house whiskeys. There was a Cardew that I believe was Targaryen or Martell, but there's a Cardew, a Talisker that was the Talisker that was the Greyjoys. The Oban was the Night's Watch. Dalwhinnie was the Starks. Lagavulin was the Lannisters. The Tullys were Singleton. And the Targaryens. Targaryens and Martell are the ones that I can never remember which they were, but there were those 7. And then they released the Seven Kingdoms, which is the Mortlock. And then with those, you had Johnny Walker Ice, Johnny Walker Fire, and Johnny White Walker. All those together, you could find as a set for like $600-700. And at the time, that was, you were saving like, I think, $50-60 off of buying all of them separately. And now I've only seen one place that will sell you the full set for about 3,000 Great British pounds. That's a lot of money. And that falls into these became collectibles category. And I know that, like, I personally am not a big fan of whiskey as a collectible, whiskey as an investment. And when this is empty, I am going to be keeping this tube because it is kind of cool. But it fell into the category of almost immediately after they released, and Diageo kind of implied, never outright stated, but implied that once these releases were gone, that was it. They weren't doing anything else. And then ahead of the last season, before it dropped, they teased that they might have something else in the works. Nothing concrete, and a lot of those posts are deleted now. But sort of kind of teased that there might be something else in the works. And then the final season of Game of Thrones happened. And all of a sudden, the last season was spoilers. The last season of Game of Thrones was a flippin' disaster. It was just a train wreck from beginning to end, but in particular, the end. And there were signs in the 7th season that it was not going to live up to the hype. Benioff and Weiss are honestly not very talented as writers or producers. And when they ran out of material, they did really well for the first couple seasons, and then things slowly started to degrade. And then the rumor was that they got a deal, or were offered a deal with Disney to write for Star Wars, or to show run for Star Wars. And they basically slapped together season 8, said, that's it, we're going to Disney, peace. It flopped because they just kind of fumbled the ending like you wouldn't believe. I mean, if you've watched it, you believe. They, according to Martin, he was happy-ish with the ending that they had. He wasn't happy with the pacing, but of course, Martin's pacing can be described as glacial. And that is as kind as possible. Now, what did that mean? That meant that all of a sudden, Diageo that had been kind of, these moved. This was a great product move for them at first. They went like that. And so when they were teasing, hey, maybe we'll do another Game of Thrones tie-in, and then people were like, hey, what about other things that you can do like a tie-in with? And there was some hype building in the whiskey community about whiskey tie-ins with popular media. And then that never really happened. And I think that you can blame Game of Thrones for that. And ultimately Benioff and Weiss. Because just lackluster at best. Let's get back to this whiskey though. So unlike some of the releases, the Dalwhinnie was basically a reskin of their Winter Gold release, maybe with a little bit of tweaking to it. I'd have to buy a bottle of that release and put them side by side and kind of compare, but I would wager that that's probably not a bad guess, because the less money they spend on R&D on a new product for this, when it was initially kind of a like, I don't know if this is going to work out real well sort of thing, makes sense. So reskinning a product they're already blending for, that they're already pulling barrels for, makes sense. There's a little bit of Werther's Original just on the edges of the nose of this. Genuinely very approachable dram. Makes me want to try more Dalwhinnie. Not this summer. Got other things that I got to do. The finish is very brief. It's honey heather, or heather honey, and a little bit of like maybe salted caramel, and then nothing. And it's gone quick. And nothing wrong with that, but kind of an interesting, like very approachable. Like I'd put this about on par with like Fiddick and Levitt 12 in terms of like approachability. Yeah, well, let's ask and answer 3 quick questions. First one being, do I like it? Honestly, I could take it or leave it. Like, as much as I've been nice about it, saying that it's, an approachable dram, it's an easy drinker. Those aren't the attributes that really grab me and pull me in, if that makes sense. So, like, it's one of those things where it's like, I understand that it has a place and that there are a lot of people who will like it. It's just not for me. Second question. I think it's a good value. At the time, I thought it was an excellent value. I thought it was probably one of the best values of the ones that I tried, which was the Cardew, which I think may have been the Targaryen. And I got to try a pour of the Singleton and thought that it was a bit brash and young and not really very well-rounded, if that makes sense. And the third and final question, which is, do I recommend it? If you see it somewhere for a reasonable price, absolutely pick it up. If you see it for under $50, yeah, I'd say it's worth it. Absolutely pick it up. And now, before I spin the wheel, just going to promo my stuff again. I have these wonderful, beautiful French oak barrel stave pens, held cognac for 45 years before being used to finish a peated American single malt in the Pacific Northwest. If you know, you know. Unfortunately, I can't tell you exactly what distillery it is because the master distiller couldn't get her marketing team to okay me telling people, and that's fine. They've got a brand to protect. I also have rollerball versions of these, which are fancier, nicer, smoother writing. They're $50. and some other pens on my Etsy shop. There's a link in the description down below. I also have a TeePublic shop where I'm selling t-shirt designs and such that relate to my YouTube channel. And I think that covers all of my self-promotion. Hold on a moment. I've just gotta, for some reason, if I whack my mouse, it stops working. I apologize for that. So let's see what I'm reviewing on Wednesday. Start by hiding this. Let's start by hiding this. Come on. There we go. And spinning the wheel. See what we get. For some reason, my internet's been really, really badly laggy lately. I'm on a wired connection too, so it really shouldn't be an issue. So while I wait for that to start functioning for me, so one of the things that I'm going to be doing this spring is in the lead up to the Virginia Whiskey Tournament for 2026. I'm going to be selling some t-shirt designs to fund the purchase of the trophy for the Virginia Whiskey Tournament. As always, it will be a Peter Jefferson Cup that says Virginia Whiskey Champion 2026 on it. And then Doug and I are going to do a Single Malt Frontier stream. It's probably going to go to this channel and the Single Malt Frontier channel, where I'm going to fill the bracket, and that'll happen probably in May, early May, leading up to the start of the Virginia Whiskey Tournament on the 2nd of June. In the meantime, on Wednesday, it's a Wednesday rye day. Wild Turkey 101 rye, it's a classic. It's one that doesn't get actually a whole lot of discussion, I don't think, which, you know, the 101 bourbon is iconic. People don't think about rye when they think about Wild Turkey, which is unfortunate because I think they make a decent rye, and I'll tell you all about that on Wednesday. So until next time, thank you guys for tuning in for this longer than normal video. Until next time, stay happy, stay geeks, Slancha.